Hello, everyone, and welcome. They've done it again. We're going to be talking about another Marvel movie. Is this the one that's finally going to turn things around? I'm Mike, and with me today is...
I'm my boy.
And we are going to be talking about it because this is Mike's After Action Reviews, and this is the After Action Review for Thunderbolts. As always, guys, I'm here. I have my notes, I have my guest, and we are going to start with the movie's production. Also, as always, we are trying to cut everything back, make the videos shorter, so hopefully that is true in this case. But in order to do that, we have kind of consolidated things. We're going to talk about the cast in the production. We'll go over them very quickly and then make some comments about how they were cast and the acting and all of those things. So let's get into it. So and also, we're only doing what everybody is most famous for and not their most recent work. So if you liked getting the most recent work and what people are famous for, let me know in the comment section down below, but I think this is going to make things go by a little quicker and still give you a good idea of what's going on as far as, the production. So, okay, so this was brought to us by Marvel Studios. That was the only production company. There were a few others, but that was because, like, when Marvel goes and does filming on other locations, they'll have to deal with, like, the Australian film something, and it's like they didn't have anything with making the movie. They just had to do with filming on location. So, Marvel Studios, it's that they've been known for the MCU movies starting way back in 2008 with Iron Man, and have now devolved into the most recent movie being Captain America: Brave New World in 2025, which go check out my thoughts on that in the review over on the channel. So this movie was written by Eric Pearson from Thor Ragnarok in 2017. Thor Ragnarok was from 2017. That was 8 years ago. My lord. Joanna Callow, most well known from the series The Bear from 2022 and to 2024, and then Kurt Busiek. This was his first movie. Okay, but other than that, he did the video game Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 in 2017. Okay, the director was Jake Schreier, most well known for Robot and Frank in 2012, and then other than that, he mostly did series and music videos. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, I loved Robot and Frank. I have the DVD somewhere. It's somewhere, but I loved that movie. That was really good. It's one of those like very subdued movies that's not like totally outrageous, but it's also a comedy, so it's kind of cool. And you can see that influence here, and we'll talk about it in a second. The music was by Son, S-O-N Lux, or maybe Lou. I don't know. It's L-U-X. And he was involved in the music. He was the composer for Everything Everywhere All at Once in 2022. Okay, so then we'll just really quick go over the cast. Now, this is going to seem like it's taking a long time to go through the cast, and that's only because there was so many. This is an ensemble movie. So we have Florence Pugh, known for, she's been in the MCU since Black Widow in 2021. Sebastian Stan, most well known for Captain America: The Winter Soldier in 2014. We have Louis Pullman, who's most well known for Outer Range from 2022 to 2024. David Harbour, in the MCU since Black Widow in 2021, and also, Stranger Things, all that stuff. Wyatt Russell in the MCU came into the MCU with Falcon and the Winter Soldier in 2021. And then Hannah John Kamen, she was in Ant-Man the Wasp 2018. She was the bad guy. And then we have Julia Louise Dreyfus. She was part of Seinfeld. Most well known from that, from 1990 to 1998. So, getting into everything. We've talked about this, and I'm going to say it the same way every time, so I'm going to sound like a broken record. Marvel Studios. way down from their prime. Some things come out and are basically at this point. It's like if it comes out and it's a little bit okay, you're like, wow, they really knocked it out of the park with this one. Like, this is so much higher than what they have been doing. And then, but mostly it's the weirdest, stupidest decisions they make with their movies nowadays, and it sucks. I don't know any of these other people by name as far as the writers. Thor Ragnarok was awesome, though. I did like Robot and Frank. I didn't see Everything Everywhere All at Once. Any thoughts on any of that?
No.
I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine has been the biggest Marvel thing for a long time, the most successful, best thing for a long time. But it was also more of a Fox property. I mean, it was basically Ryan Reynolds. It wasn't like MCU stuff. The casting I thought was really good. Any thoughts on the cast? I mean, these are all people.
Oh no,
yeah. These are all people who were in the MCU before, so they're all reprising their roles. But any thoughts on any of them?
Other than the villain, yeah. Everybody else has been in this universe so far. But yeah, like it was an all-star cast. So these bunch of yahoos got thrown into this, and like it turned out to be a pretty good cast to work with.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. What did you think of? Okay, so some of this stuff was spoiled in the promotional material, and a lot of people said like, "Yeah, that sucks." Okay,
that's actually one of my things I was going to talk about.
Yeah, no, so I don't really want to get into that, but I will say, what did you think about the acting there with
the acting? The villain? The acting I felt was pretty good between everybody.
But I'm talking about that character.
Yeah, the acting of all the characters, I thought they did a great job. Like,
yeah.
it was a lot of humor between all of it to keep the acting going. But yeah, I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, I will say that Lewis Pullman, he's kind of the new guy, and I think his character, they did a really good job with his character, and he doesn't feel, now this is the first time we're seeing him, but he doesn't feel miscast. The character he's playing is very obscure, even in the comics. I'm going to get into some of that, because I know quite a bit about the character. When I say quite a bit, I mean I'm not some lore master. You'd have to talk to my dad. That's why it says Mike instead of Lore Master Mike, okay, to be very clear. But I am the title character of this YouTube channel, so what do you want? No, yeah, I think that the casting here, and I was actually kind of drawn into Black Widow because of David Harbour, and I was brought into, and I liked his character in that movie, and then I also, seeing this, I was like, okay, David Harbour, Red Guardian is going to get his time. This is going to be cool. Yeah. David Harbour really being like a real superhero. This is going to be cool. So yeah, I think that production here, I wasn't thrilled, because it's another Marvel movie. It's not superhero fatigue. It's bad movie fatigue. It's bad production fatigue. It's bad writing fatigue. So going into this, I was like, I don't even know if this is going to be good. I'll be honest with you, guys, I didn't. And we're going to get into how I felt about it towards the end, when we get to the end and stuff. But there was a lot of potential. There's always potential for them to do something good because of the concept and it being superheroes and some of these superheroes being really cool. But I mean, there was like some serious potential for this to be bad, and we'll get into whether they lived up to the good potential or to the bad potential as we go through this review. Yeah. So let's move into, if you don't have anything else, we'll move into plot.
No.
Yeah. So first off, according to IMDb, this had a runtime of 2 hours and 7 minutes. The plot summary is minimal, but here's what it says. After finding themselves ensnared in a death trap, an unconventional team of anti-heroes must go on a dangerous mission that will force them to confront the darkest corners of their pasts. So, before I start off saying anything, I do want to ask you your opinions. I want you to give me what you thought about, first of all, that plot summary, and then also what you liked or disliked about the story without talking about even the characters of the acting, because we're going to get into that in the characters. We're going to get in that in a minute. I guess the acting we already talked about. Also, I just want to let you know, please interrupt me when I go to my part, so that if you have things to say. Yeah. Anyway, go on. What did you think of the story? What did you think of the plot summary?
The story and plot summary, the plot summary was, like you said, minimal. There was a lot more to it than just that, but that was just them getting together and heading in the right direction.
Yeah, that's like the general idea without giving anything away.
Yeah. Then, but yeah, the story overall, I believe the story was very well written. Got in depth with a lot of past traumas and self growth, and it was very well written and done, and it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else can I say about it? Yeah. It was really. Right, I liked it. It was great. Well, the story was perfect.
Yeah, okay. No, and I agree. I mean, let's get into it. So, one thing is that they said that this movie, before, somebody said at some point, I believe I heard them say that this is a lot like The Winter Soldier, Captain America, The Winter Soldier. No, sorry, that was Captain America Brave New World. But I will tell you, a lot of this sort of feels like Captain America, The Winter Soldier. And here's why. Because in the beginning of this movie, it starts off as a spy movie.
Yeah.
And then it kind of turns, it kind of veers off into, which in a good way, veers off into a superhero action movie. And I liked that. I liked that. And the reason I liked that is because instead of it being, if you think about like Avengers Age of Ultron, the opening scene was them, breaking into a Hydra base, and it's just the Hulk ripping people apart, and Captain America, and they do all this stuff, and Thor shooting lightning bolts. And here, my next point is that it's a lot like the first Avengers movie. We have a group of special individuals who are unwillingly forced to come together to face a major threat, and a lot of them are like, I don't want to be here, let me get out of here. But along with that, again, with the slower pace of the beginning, it's not all just action. I would say that the pacing was really good, but I just mean it's not all like breakneck action or anything. It's a character study. So we're introduced to these characters, these new characters on a personal level. So you're not just getting where you meet a new character appears, he starts kicking everybody's, kicking butt, and all you really get from them. This is kind of the problem that I had with the Suicide Squad, is that the characters weren't, you didn't talk to the characters a lot and get to know their motivations or where they kind of came from. You just saw them use their powers. And so, or Captain Marvel, what I didn't like about that is that the whole thing with her is we didn't really learn anything about her except that she's a jerk, and then her powers. And it's like, well, you know, and I've heard people say, I really like her because she kicks butt. And it's like, yeah, that's all she is. She's not somebody that I care about on a personal level.
She can kick my butt anytime.
Yeah. But yeah, basically we see the way, and the thing is that, again, I think that they're taking the best notes from each, the best note, and this is why I think they did a good job. It's like they're taking the best notes from Marvel of the past. So it's a lot like the Avengers. We're pulling these guys together, unwillingly so, and we're basically getting them to unite because they realize, look, we don't want to be here, we don't want to work together, but if we don't do something, a lot of bad stuff is going to happen. We also see the way that they, and then think about Guardians of the Galaxy, we see the way that they see themselves as failures. There's literally a scene where a person says, look, we're all failures, or we're all losers. Just like in Guardians of the Galaxy when he says, look, we're all losers. We all lose. We've all lost. It literally is almost the same scene. So they see themselves as failures, but they're presented with an opportunity for redemption. So in Guardians of the Galaxy, it's like we're presented an opportunity to kind of overcome our current problems. Here, they're presented the opportunity to not just do a good thing in that time, but to become heroes. And one thing, and it's really cool. I liked the good pacing. We didn't just start with a bunch of action and explosions. We kind of led up to that. Just like I said in the first Avengers movie. Yeah. So, any thoughts on any of that, or
No,
comments,
yeah,
or whatever?
definitely 100% agree. Like the pace was great. Like it just wasn't action after action after action. Like there was a lot of character building with it. That's what I really liked about this is the character building and getting to know a lot of these and the father daughter duo and
Yeah.
them working on themselves. Like I really enjoyed a lot of that and building up to the action.
Well, okay, and let's get into that. So then we've got the characters. So we know all of these characters, but I'm going to list them off really quick. Again, there's a lot of them. We've got Yelena Belova. She's the new Black Widow. Okay, we got Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, Alexei Shostakov, Red Guardian, John Walker, U.S. Agent, Ava Starr, Ghost, and that's the girl from Ant-Man and the Wasp. We've got Bob, who, again, this was spoiled right in the promotional material. The movie's been out for a little while because this movie review is coming out late. But Bob is Sentry. And then we've got, bear with me here, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who is the CIA director. And it is alluded to in the I think it's the end of Black Widow. It is alluded to that she was a Hydra agent. Like they straight up, she straight up says something that makes it sound like she's a Hydra person. And in the comics, she is a very complicated person, which is great because they got basically Nick Fury we haven't seen him in a while. He was in Captain Marvel, but I just mean like he hasn't been taking an active role. So with the way that they've set her up, it's cool to see like we have a complex character who's kind of very secretive, and then we've got another complex character who's very secretive. And they're sticking to the comic. She's faithful to the comics as far as we've seen so far, from what I understand. At least the idea of her is. And so that's cool. She's kind of replacing Nick Fury here, but she is the CIA director, and then there's a bunch of other things going on. So I want to tell you that Taskmaster was in this. Yes, the female Taskmaster, and she comes in, no spoilers, but I think that Marvel, before they did this, again, taking the notes, from all the best of Marvel and trying to put that into this movie, whoever it was made a decision and said, look, get rid of that we do not want her involved in what is happening, so she is here for a short period of time, and does not come back after her short period of time in the beginning of the movie. No spoilers with what's up with anything, but she does not stay, which we're all very happy about. Big part of the movie. So this comes from the perspective of the new Black Widow, Florence Pugh's character, Yelena. And a bit, again, I think the most character development we get is with her and Red Guardian. And I told you before we went and saw the movie, I've told you before we started this review, I was here for Red Guardian. I wanted to see Red Guardian be the super soldier. He was. Now, Red Guardian, basically, in the Black Widow movie, when he's not putting on the suit, there's like the intro sequence. You saw Black Widow, right?
Yeah.
So there's an intro sequence where he, I think it's a tank or a truck, with one hand, maybe both hands, either way, he flips a tank or a big truck and flips it completely over. And I was like, Captain America hasn't done that. So it looks like Alexei is stronger than Cap. At least in some ways.
And Captain America had America's ass, and Alexei had Russia's ass.
Yeah, he's got Russia's arms because he. But I was totally here to see what they were going to do with him. I wasn't disappointed. I really appreciate it. Was in the promotional material. In the promotional material, you hear him say, "When I look at you, all I see is my daughter, my little girl." And they really get into that. And I'll tell you. My dad never watches any of the reviews, so I'll just tell you, my dad and I do not have the greatest relationship. I really look up to him, but we don't have the greatest relationship. And I remember, when I was younger, just even if my dad had just come and said, "You're great, I love you, you're my son," that would have been so awesome. And basically Alexei, as shown in the promotional material, does that here when Yelena really needs it. And so that was really awesome. There's a bunch of deep stuff like that. U.S. Agent, and any of the other characters you want to talk about before I get into anything else? But
no, like Alexei, was a big one. Super excited to see him, see what he could do, and bring his humor to everything, and then the character building between him and his daughter was just phenomenal.
Did you see Black Widow? No, yeah. Not Black Widow. My God. Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier. Did you see Falcon and Winter Soldier?
I did not.
Okay, so what did you think of U.S. Agent?
He was... So I'm guessing he was in that?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's it. Like, I never seen this guy until this movie, so like he seemed just like a total asshole. Complete.
So I'll tell you what it was.
But he, that was, just all him was just a big butthole. So like, yeah.
Okay, so basically what happened with him is that in Falcon Winter Soldier, he is the new Captain America. Because the shield, because Falcon, Sam Wilson gave the shield to the government. Yeah, Falcon, not Captain America, he's Falcon. And the U.S. government made this guy Captain America. Now in the beginning I thought, oh, well then he must have the super soldier serum. He doesn't. In that show, one of the reasons that show sucked is because this guy's running around using the shield and doesn't have the super soldier serum. And now one of the reasons that the new Captain America stuff sucks is because Sam Wilson's running around and he doesn't have the super soldier serum. So what happens, though, is that this guy gets the super soldier serum in that series and becomes actually... like he's already the Captain America, has the suit, and then throughout the series he gets the super soldier serum, and then one of his friends is killed. His partner is killed. And so he goes crazy and kills somebody on national television. Like he takes the shield and bashes somebody's brains in. Yeah. And the bad guy who did it. And and the thing is that it broke him. And all that stuff that you see that happens with him in this movie is a result of all of those things. And so what I really liked is, again, all of these characters you're seeing how they see themselves as failures and they're being redeemed. Yeah. But this guy, before John Walker, he was like he wasn't Steve, obviously, but he basically was Steve. Like he was a golden boy, always wanted to do the right thing, and then his friend gets killed. Yeah. And and then even after his friend gets killed, he still shows up at the end of the series to try to do to try to help Sam Wilson. You know. Okay. Yeah. So it actually I liked the character, and I liked how they did him in this movie too. Yeah. So probably the least interesting character is Ava Starr. That's the character's name. She's Ghost. Yeah. And she is there, and she's a great actress. She's got cool abilities. They didn't really get into her a whole lot. You would have had to see... No, not much. Yeah, you would have had to see Ant-Man and the Wasp, but her big thing is that she has this problem all of her life where that thing that she does where she can phase through stuff, that's not her suit. That's actually her. No. The suit helps her to not fall through the earth, basically. Yeah. And so she keeps corporeal form, and she had a rough life. That's like her whole backstory in the MCU so far. Yeah. Now, let's get into it here. Just real quick, I'll say Valentina, we already kind of talked about. Think of her as a more evil version of Nick Fury. So you think Nick Fury lives in the gray? Well, she lives in the gray too. It's like she's not exactly on the light, she's not in the dark, she's in the gray area. But she's more towards the dark than Nick Fury was. I think that I don't know what's going to happen with her, but I think that she's a good person, actually. I think that she's just doesn't mind breaking the law. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? She does not mind. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, she doesn't mind breaking the law as long as it's for good reasons. I think that Nick Fury was more noble. She's ignoble. Like, she'll do what needs to be done. Obviously to an extent. I don't know if she'd like just go around completely murdering people, but anyway, so she's more towards the dark side. Okay, so that's her. Just think Nick Fury. Okay, then we've got Sentry, which this was again spoiled. I think that I got to tell you guys something. So Sentry is a character who is Superman. Think Superman. Here's the deal about Sentry though. He has telepathic powers, energy protection powers, flight, all of Superman's powers, plus telepathy, and so even breaking his mind is bad. He doesn't have, just the same as everybody ever, he doesn't have any strength, resistance to magic, but nobody does anyway, except for magic users. So that's a moot point about the differences between Sentry and Superman. But he doesn't have a weakness to anything. So there is no kryptonite for Sentry.
Yeah.
In the comics, he's described as he basically got the super soldier serum, and then something else happened, and now he has the power of 10,000 exploding suns. That's how he's described in the comic books. So in the comic books, Sentry is somebody who you never hear about. He never does anything because he's just so strong that him doing things would lead to so much destruction. And then there's also this risk of something else that happens, which is what they encounter in this movie, because Sentry basically, without really getting into it, I'll say Sentry has some mental problems. I mean, he's a good man, all that stuff. He has some mental problems. And that can lead to some very bad things. It's like the Hulk, kind of, but a little different. And then Sentry also, while the Hulk could destroy the universe, actually, he's almost done it in the comic books, Sentry just has a way of doing that would be more difficult for you to stop. Like, you can't just get into a brawl with Sentry and win. There'd need to be more to that. Okay, so that's that. But I really liked Bob. I loved the way, like, if you're a comic book guy, there's not a lot on Sentry. I'm not some lore master. I haven't read all of the comics or anything. But if you're a comic guy, let me know in the comment section below what you think. But I just, it's not going to be the same as the comics, but I do believe that they stuck to the spirit of the comics with this character.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering where they go with it, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah.
I liked all the characters.
Yeah,
go on.
The biggest thing I liked about Bob was he was just somebody.
Yeah.
Who did definitely have some issues in the background and everything, but, like, he was just some random person that they just threw in here.
Yeah.
And they did some amazing character building with him, and, like, he's rather ordinary, I feel, compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
The superheroes we got are superheroes. They've had their issues, but no, like, they're not like everybody else in the world. Bob was.
Well, even Steve Rogers. Oh, go on.
Well, Steve Rogers, he was a Mr. Perfect everything. Bob was not, ever.
Well, yeah, and I just meant to say, like, Steve Rogers was going into the Super Soldier program, and he was like, before he was Steve Rogers, he was like, a knight of old. He had chivalry and all this stuff. And when he went into it, he knew that he was like, I don't want to go kill anybody, but I'm going to, if I have to stop people to stop the Nazis. And then he did that, and he already had that idea of, I'm gonna be this great thing, and Bob just was like, hey, I don't really have anything else going on, I'll sign up for your whatever, you'll help me out in life, and maybe it'll pay me okay, let's do it, okay, and had like no idea what was gonna happen.
He's like the typical plasma donor.
Yeah. Well, okay, but I'll tell you this: I liked all the characters and as concepts, because something that we've run into with a lot of these people, with a lot of MCU movies lately is that you have uninteresting characters doing uninteresting things that we don't care about because we don't care about the characters. So these characters, all of them are well acted and done, and everything is done in such a way that you care about them and you think they're interesting. Like a Russian super soldier, you know? How that's an interesting idea, you know? Sentry. That's an interesting idea. So I'm liking all this. The story behind John Walker, like he's basically a failure. He's like trying to be Captain America, but failed. He failed at having Captain America's character. So now he's trying to. He's basically you. Like he's basically, I want to be a great person. And then if you don't quite make it, that's what he is. And now he gets the opportunity in this movie to take those extra few steps to becoming the great person he wanted to be. So it's really cool. It's really cool. So let's get into the miscellaneous section, though. Okay, first of all, I want to know your miscellaneous comments, and then I also, again, when I get into mine, I want you to interrupt me, and we'll talk about some of my thoughts.
I didn't make any.
You didn't make any miscellaneous section stuff?
No,
okay.
I went straight to sustains and proves in my final statement and rating.
Okay, all right, that's okay. That's okay. We'll talk about what I got. So I think that the comedy through character interaction was done really well here. A lot of the MCU, so this was more subdued and it's not silliness. A lot of the MCU has become that. So I think that it's like once Guardians of the Galaxy became a success and everybody loved it, all of the MCU people were like, okay, we gotta have people coming in and being a goofy thing. And it was terrible. So for instance, Drax, standing there going, I'm moving so slow that you can't see me. Perfectly awesome really great in that context. Guardians of the Galaxy, right? And then and then that devolved into Nick Fury yelling, "Use Black Girl magic!" And it's to in the Captain Marvel movie, and you're like, "What are the Marvels movie?" And people are like, "What the heck is going on?" Sorry, my headphone was dying. But here it's like it was. So the first Avengers movie was actually quite self-serious. But there were little moments where the characters would do things that are basically what their character is, and it would be funny. Like in this movie, Red Guardian is his way of getting into this situation is he finds out through a series of circumstances, like not unfortunate events, but basically odd circumstances. He finds out that his daughter, Yelena, is in trouble. So he comes and he's like, we will be superhero group, I am Red Guardian, I hope that, the Russian accent isn't great, but anyway, and then all the other people are like, shut up, like, what are you, are you fat Santa Claus, and it's not like some serious, some silly jokes that they're telling. You don't have a fat Thor here, but you do have some interesting character interactions that you kind of think to yourself, if I was sitting around with my buddies and that's how we would talk to each other, and it would be a good time, instead of it just being a stand-up comedy.
And just like, so he did come to rescue his daughter, but nobody knew him or really knew that was her dad, and just the embarrassment on her of him saying the stuff he says, and she's like, "Oh my God, shut up! Please shut up!" And
exactly.
Like, oh my God, it was just perfectly well done. I loved it so much.
So I did. I liked the comedy here. I liked that it's serious because it's just nice to have. How do I explain this? When you have movies that are really, really silly and things, it's almost like they're trying to remind you, like, hey, we're in a movie. Ha ha ha. And it's like, no, I want to sink in. I want to sink into the idea of basically kind of what we talked about before, like the knights assembling before the battle and then riding out. I want to have that feeling of Gandalf standing on the bridge saying, "You shall not pass." You know, we can have deep movies anyway, with action and all of those, you know, but also, you know, characters and sadness and joy and stuff. There was not a single joke, like straight up joke told, I don't think, in Lord of the Rings, but there were some funny moments where Gimli would be like, that only counts as one, you know, and it's because, I mean, that is like a funny thing, but Gimli wasn't like, knock, knock, who's there, you know, like, oh, man, you know, yeah, so I like that seriousness, okay, so then my second point here is, again, you know, not getting in any spoilers or anything, but just, and this is just my observation, so again, I'm not spoiling anything or anything like that, but are they preparing for kind of a soft reboot? Because people have talked about, they need to go to Doomsday, and again, this is not spoiling anything, I'm just telling you what people have guessed at, is that they're going to go to Avengers Doomsday, and then from Avengers Doomsday, they're going to use that to do multiverse stuff and reset the whole MCU and have all new characters, all new actors. And I think that that would kind of be a mistake. Anyway, I've talked about that. I think it would be a mistake to throw away what they've built so far. But if they were preparing for a reboot with these characters and bringing in some other new characters, like they've talked about Wolverine now, he's there. You know, we could have Wolverine join the Avengers, or Wolverine at least be out there in the world and showing up every once in a while, kind of like they did with Black Panther. Like, he wasn't an Avengers member, but he would be there if they needed him. You know, we have the Fantastic Four movie coming out. And so basically what they've done is they've brought in these new characters that they could at least use to move forward, so that way we don't have to have like a press a button and reset everything and all these guys are just gone, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what they're doing with DC. They've already said, like, we're wiping the slate clean. I don't think they should wipe the slate clean. I think they should try to salvage the good here and get rid of the bad. Like, we don't ever have to hear from Captain Marvel ever again, you know?
Yeah.
Because, you know, and if we did, I hope that they would redo the writing of that character to make her better. But if she never showed up again, we don't have to be reminded of the bad taste in our mouth from the Marvels and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the question I ask you when talking about this, I want to ask you, who do we have left from the MCU? You know, like, let's bring in these new characters. It seems like they're doing a soft reboot, getting ready to do some kind of reboot here, possibly having these characters and maybe a few more, because think about this. The Hulk. Okay, these are the characters that I sat down and I thought, these are the main Avengers characters. Now, there's also a couple of series characters that are basically, we're going to get it, but basically they're either hated or they're gone because of different continuity stuff, or they weren't popular. So those are other characters, but these are the characters from the MCU proper that we have left. So we have the Hulk. He's neutered. Okay? Like, he's been turned into a not great guy. Okay, like Professor Hulk, and it's in Endgame, he wasn't fun. He wasn't the big threat, being a big monster or anything like that. Okay, plus they have distribution issues, so he cannot. My understanding is that it's like Universal Pictures has final rights to any movies with him. So MCU can use him, but any movie with the name Hulk in it, he cannot be. They have to get approved by Universal Studios. Okay, then we have Sam Wilson Cap. Okay, who's basically just Falcon, who also has the shield, because he's not a super soldier and doesn't really have anything. But basically, people don't like him, and his movies have not done well. Okay, one thing is that they did do a throwaway line to get rid of him in this movie, which makes me wonder, was that part of like some reshoot once the Captain America Brave New World didn't do well, or maybe they knew that Captain America Brave New World wasn't going to do well, so they said, add this line, so that way they're like, Sam Wilson's gone. Okay, Hawkeye, but he was set up to be retired. We have Kate Bishop Hawkeye, she's not really liked or popular. We have Captain Marvel, who's hated. We have Miss Marvel, who's well acted. Everybody basically that I've heard has liked the actress, that young girl, you know? But she's not very popular because she was in a series that nobody watched. And then, like I said, we've got side characters from other shows like Echo. You know, they're all either hated or not popular.
You loved Echo. What are you talking about?
No. Did you see Echo?
Heck no.
Good for you. Good for you. She-Hulk. She's another one that was in a show. Everybody hated that. I think that She-Hulk actually is the reason why that new Daredevil show is not doing great. I've heard that it's okay, but it's not doing like super great as far as viewership. I think that's because of She-Hulk, because he showed up in She-Hulk. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, it just seems like they're going to set up. Let me ask you this then. Do you think that you would be happy moving forward with the MCU with these characters and maybe a couple other characters becoming like the mainline team of superheroes?
It's a good group. I'd have to say it's a really good group. Yeah. That's tough.
I want more from. So we've gotten Florence Pugh as Black Widow fighting and doing stuff in the Black Widow movie. We've gotten Winter Soldier doing a bunch of stuff, even doing stuff more here. We've gotten U.S. Agent doing things in the series. Ghost was a bad guy in one of the movies, and that was good. Sentry has his whole thing going on in this movie, but I want more of Red Guardian. Like, I love Red Guardian.
We need something off for him. Definitely.
Yeah, we need him to be in another movie, and maybe he takes the role of Captain America, or maybe John Walker does that, and maybe Red Guardian is a little bit more of the muscle, and maybe they should show him to be a little stronger in the serum that he used, because it was basically a Russian version of the super soldier serum. They need to show that he's maybe a little bit physical stronger, and then he could almost be like the Hulk. No, I mean, not as strong as the Hulk, but he could be like this team's muscle guy, and then just get him fighting some big giant dude, and he just rips him apart, or even maybe picks up a car and like rips it in half and throws it, or something.
They can always do like a prequel with him or something like that,
because he's such a cool character,
his
right?
Path.
Yeah. But yeah, we need to do something. They need to have a scene with him where, almost like Thor, for Thor Ragnarok, or Thor Love and Thunder, where it's like him lifting weights and he's, like picking up trains or something, just like something, not trains, but like doing to get fit again. And so you just see his waistline go, and then he, ripped abs and stuff. But I want to see these guys. I'm telling you, after this movie, I would be completely I would love to have these guys plus maybe a couple others.
Yeah, I would too. It was a good group.
Yeah, the mainline team here. I think that they got a good thing going on. So, otherwise, let's move into our final statements and review scores then. So, do you want to go first? Do you want to go? Well, why don't you go first?
All right. Going in, I had no improves. I enjoyed the movie, but some of the stains that we've already been talking about was character development. Like, was phenomenal with this movie. Like, we went in depth with pretty much everybody in this movie, or in the past movies we knew brought forward, and like it just really made this movie more wholesome and more enjoyable. And then. So that'd be like my first sustain. Second sustain was the humor was just on par with just keeping you in depth with everything, keeping you enticed with what's next. It just was so freaking enjoyable. Third sustain was the emotional moments in this. There are definitely emotional moments in this. It definitely plays with your heartstrings at the end on how they get through the crisis, and I definitely teared up at the end. It was very wholesome, and I really, really enjoyed it. One thing I was noticing, like, a lot of people said, "Oh, it's a predictable narrative." Like, it's a freaking hero movie. Of course, it's gonna be predictable. You gotta know what's gonna happen. These anti-heroes are gonna turn into heroes, but the way that they did it, I think, was just perfect. The writing on this was phenomenal on how they developed everything from anti-heroes to becoming heroes, and how they actually did it was just phenomenal. I was so impressed with how this movie was done. On into my final statement. Overall, I really enjoyed the experience of the new Marvel movie. there really was never a dull moment with just this humor. The great cast kept it lively. The writers did a wonderful job, like I said, with the character development. Bringing these nobodies really into the light of being heroes was just phenomenal. Absolutely loved it. And I would give it my rating probably. God, I'm on the fence above average or excellent. Like, I really enjoy this. I'm going to give it an excellent. I loved this freaking movie.
And I'll say that some of our sustains overlap here. So then I'll do mine. So my first sustain is the character development was done very well. This is a good group of actors. This is interesting characters, and they're written well. So aside from even what they're doing, they're just written well in such a way that, I mean, if this movie was literally them sitting in a circle, like a AA group, and they're just sitting in a circle, and then they maybe talk a little bit about their past, and then the movie shows like flashes of what they've done in the past, and we explore their characters a little bit. I think that we would actually have some cool stuff, as long as it does have if they had scenes of like Red Guardian talking about his past as this hero, and now he's just this nobody, and then we actually got to see him like fighting in war or something in little flashbacks. That'd be awesome. But anyway, the characters are done well. The writing, though, that's what people need to understand, is these characters are interesting, but they're written so well, and they are and the acting, and a lot of stuff is like, you'll have an interesting character, okay, with good actors, which is basically what happened with Brie Larson. Like, you had a cool character, good actress, and then I don't know what happened with the writing for her. Somebody had to have told her, like, be the biggest jerk that you can be, and she went with it, and it ruined the character. Here we have good acting, good acting, an interesting character, and then you've got like these writers who are like, I'm gonna make this character pop on the screen, and the way that they're gonna interact is gonna be cool. So that was awesome.
And they did it.
And then my second sustain is that they didn't just have explosions and meaningless action. So think like the Transformers movies, where there's like a minimal plot, you kind of get what's going on because of the IP, and then it's just action. I would say that like Captain Marvel and the Marvels was, instead of having so much character development, you're getting Captain Marvel going to a place and then being like, the way that you get to know her is that you see her fighting and stuff. I mean, even in the movie Black Adam, even in the movie Black Adam with The Rock, as The Rock is doing all of this action, he's talking and doing things to make you understand what kind of character he is. So like, anyway, this is not just explosions and meaningless action. There's a lot of character interaction and dialogue that goes into you liking what's happening and wanting to have more. The only thing is, okay. So anyway, so meaningless action. All right. Then I've got an improve that's going to kind of go with that, though. So, but then my final sustain is that they did the finale well. I was really concerned in how they were going to beat the bad guy. And by the way, this is not a spoiler, really, but I'll tell you this: that Sentry is not the bad guy. Okay, just so everybody understands. If you haven't seen this movie yet, go see it, because it's not doing the greatest at the box office. I think people are just assuming that it was going to be bad. It's not. It's one of the highest rated MCU movies in years. It's got like over 90% in both audiences and critics on Rotten Tomatoes. If both of them agree, then I'm like, it's good, and I saw the movie and I know it's good. So anyway, 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. So how are they going to beat this problem, though? How are they going to do this? Being that Sentry has the issues that he has, and then the other guys are basically a bunch of guys that can punch and shoot, and they did it so well, and I was very satisfied. Then we move into my improves, and I have one, and it kind of goes into with what those last two sustains I said. This is not just explosions and meaningless action. I was concerned about how they were going to do the finale, but I think they needed more action in the finale. The perfect scene But okay, just to say, I do appreciate no meaningless enemies, which makes me think of like the first Suicide Squad movie where they have all these like zombie people and they just beat them up. And it's like, this is a meaningless enemy that I can just shoot down while I'm on my way to my objective.
Yeah.
I didn't really have that. But I will say, okay, so what I mean to say is the way that I think the perfect example of how the finale went and what was so cool about it is that at some point a piece of debris falls down and is about to hit this little girl. And all through this movie, you have Red Guardian and all these people saying how they're failures, and they almost made it to be the heroes they wanted to be, but they just never quite made it. And Alexei, Red Guardian, he used to be the hero. This would be like Captain America if Captain America maybe messed up a little bit and then that was taken from him, but he actually was the hero. And this little girl is about to get crushed. And you see this kind of in the promotional material, and Red Guardian runs out and he grabs that little girl and hugs her and puts his back like this, and that debris falls on Red Guardian and it breaks apart. And he says, "You are safe with me, little girl." You know? Action, character development, it all plays back into what the characters are. So cool. But what I would have liked to see is maybe if they had some way of making it so there could be a big battle like they had in the first Avengers movie. I really would have liked to see John Walker walk up and say, "Red Guardian, you do this, you do that. You go over there, and if it flies too far out that way, you either turn it back or turn it to ash." You know, whatever. Something like that. And they didn't really, and so we didn't get to see this big action sequence with all the characters fighting and being a team and fighting and all that stuff. We did get some action, which was good. It wasn't meaningless action. I would have liked to see the cool big battle at the end.
Yeah.
But I think that it's one of those things where it's like, that can be in the next movie. You know,
that's what I was gonna think. I was thinking the same thing. Like, that could be the next one.
Yeah, and I think that would be great.
Yeah.
So my final statement of review score. I think this movie is great. I think that I've always talked about it. Think about like a ship, like a spaceship, I guess, or an airplane. And it went like this and went boop, 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 and then Endgame and Disney bought it and it went boop, 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 boop. And then I've always said every movie, unlike a lot of other series and stuff, every movie, they have the opportunity, even though they're way down here, they have the opportunity to turn the ship or keep going, or maybe just stay the same. And I think with this movie, they're turning the ship.
Yeah.
With this movie, they're turning the ship. Even if they don't bring back these characters and do a bunch of stuff with them moving forward, this is what we need. We need this kind of writing, these kind of characters, this kind of plot, this kind of... Really, the big thing is the characters and the writing. This is what and the actors. That's what we need. So for me, I'm going to give this... I basically think of this as almost being like the original Avengers movie. I mean, like I said, bring the team together, good actors, good writing, some action. The Avengers had way more. That's one thing that I like more. But anyway, so I'm going to give this, hey man, without hesitation, I'll say excellent. I really will. 2 thumbs way up. I don't think that you can ask for more, and I've said this before, and probably leave me a comment, and if you're upset about it, but I'll said it before and I'll say it again. You cannot get better than good characters, good writing, and an interesting premise. You know, because the premise is executed by the characters and the writing. So if you've got an interesting premise, there you go. This was perfect execution. I mean, not perfect. Nothing is perfect, but it's like done exactly the right way that you want a movie to be made.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah. But listen, guys. Yeah, so that's all we've got, guys. Go check out the movie if you're not watching it now. If you I know that it's a little late. Try to support it if it's still in a theater. If it's not, because you guys, we've got to support these good movies. Because if we don't support the good ones, there are not going to be no more good ones. They're going to keep making the bad ones.
Yep.
But that's what we've got, guys. I really appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. Check out Tommy Boy as he is live streaming Oblivion. Remastered. And I think he's having a good time. And I currently am playing... Yeah, and I'm currently playing through Doom. And I'm loving it. And I normally don't do 100% playthroughs anymore. I used to do that on the channel. But Doom is short enough that I think I'll be able to play most of it. I think after this review, I might, unless Tommy's going to live stream, I will live stream Doom. Yeah.
No,
right,
not tonight. I'm not.
Yeah, but that's all we've got, guys. Thank you for watching. We just want to say God bless you all, and have a good night. Don't forget to check me out on Twitch and join the Discord where you can voice chat with me while I live stream, and you won't be recorded or anything on YouTube and Twitch, so that's pretty cool. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. If you like to read, you can see my after-action reports on my blog. And if you are interested, you can get some merch from my spring store. The links for everything are in the description below.